Fellow primates, I feel like I need to apologize for something, or at least acknowledge it. And it's something that I didn't even realize I was doing until recently. Now, if you've watched a few of my videos, you may have noticed a couple things. One of which is that I end my videos with the same thing pretty much every time. And that is, stay great, apes. It's my standard sign-off line, and it's usually the last thing I say. It's not uncommon for YouTubers to have standard sign-off lines, and similarly, it's also pretty common for YouTubers to have standard intro lines to start off their video and to greet their audience. And it's come to my attention that a fellow YouTuber that my pet human has been subscribed to since he became an atheist a few years ago, well, she doesn't necessarily start her videos off with this. In fact, usually she makes a response video to somebody, so she'll play a clip of them first, and then she'll respond to that opening clip, and then say, let's do this, and then she'll have a little animated intro bit, because she's an animator, and a pretty good one, if I do say so. Then, after the animated intro bit with music, she comes back and says,
"Greetings, fellow space travelers, Bionic Dance here."
Now that may sound familiar to you for one of two reasons. Either if you've watched her videos before, or if you've watched mine. Now the reason for that is that recently I realized that my intro that I use to open my videos and greet my audience is shockingly similar. The only differences being that instead of fellow space travelers, I say fellow primates, because that denotes the similarities between myself, a talking ape, and my audience, who is most likely made up of humans. And, of course, instead of saying Bionic Dance here, I say Jim the Ape here. And obviously the reason for that is because I am Jim the Ape. But it wasn't intentional. The reason I ended up saying it that way, it's different because in my first video, I believe I said almost the same thing, but I said, I am Jim the Ape. Because I felt like with my first video, I need to introduce myself. Pretty simple, pretty basic common sense there. But then after my first video, I felt like making my videos in chronological order, I wouldn't have to introduce myself so much as reintroduce myself to an audience that may already be aware that I am Jim the Ape. So I altered the wording slightly to Jim the Ape here, but what I didn't realize at the time, and I ended up realizing later, is that changing the wording to that actually solidified my verbal intro as essentially being a carbon copy of Bionic Dances. And when I realized that, I didn't know what to do. I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. I didn't know how to handle it. So I eventually arrived at the decision to make a video about it. So the purpose of this video is a couple of things. First, to acknowledge that I realize that I have sort of unintentionally plagiarized Bionic Dance's intro. Second would be to apologize for that and to say that I did not mean to. I really did not. I didn't even realize I was doing it until I had recorded that intro on at least like 3 or 4 different videos. Lastly, I want to get feedback and to ask for opinions from my audience, and especially from Bionic Dance. If I can manage to get this video to Bionic Dance's eyes and ears, I would greatly appreciate feedback from her directly as to whether I should change the intro, come up with something new to say at the beginning of my videos, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I'm sure if I gave it some real thought, I could probably come up with something else. Or whether it's not a big deal, maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe my audience doesn't care. Maybe Bionic Dance herself doesn't care and doesn't think that it's plagiarism. And maybe I can just go on using the same intro. I just want to know your honest opinion, my audience, and especially Bionic Dance, if I can manage to get her to see this. I don't know how busy she is, and she's certainly a bigger YouTuber than I, so I'm sure she gets a lot more comments and things like that. So, I don't know. Basically, that's the purpose of this video. Again, I'm sorry for my unintentional plagiarism. That's what I'm going to call it, because that's what it is. I really didn't mean to, and I was just so embarrassed when I realized it. So hopefully you all can forgive me for my unintentional plagiarism, and at least I'm man enough, being an ape, a male ape. I don't think we're called men. At least I'm male ape enough to acknowledge it and perhaps get out in front of it, because I feel like if I just carried on doing the same intro and got popular, someone would eventually say, oh, hey, your intro sounds exactly like Bionic Dance's. And, I can't really claim ignorance when my pet human is subscribed to her. So, maybe I should subscribe to her as well. She seems like a pretty cool chick. Anyway, I will end this, as I end all my videos, with the sign-off that will not need to be changed, because to my knowledge, it does not rip off anybody. Well, if it does, let me know, because maybe I have to change that too, but I don't think so. Anyway, stay great, apes.